Good evening. Can you hear me, Francis?
So, yeah, sorry about that. Yeah, I forgot I was on
Yeah,
mute.
you're there. You're there. Hey, let
Yeah.
me introduce you in this tasting. Welcome everybody to the daftmill tasting. We've been looking forward to this for a very long time. Well, it's all fans here, so they all know what you're doing, I guess, for a long time already. Personally, I know you, Francis, already for, I don't know how long, 15 years maybe? As long as
Something like
the
that, yeah.
distillery exists, or maybe even
Well,
longer.
that's 21 years now.
Yeah. And well, we're looking forward to hear your stories about the whiskies, but also, maybe you've told that already 1,000 times, but it is so cool for us whiskey geeks to for us, it's hard to imagine to have a house, a farm, making your own barley, and then creating your own distillery in your backyard. I mean, um, yeah, that's so extremely cool. That's unbelievable. So uh,
Yeah.
we
For me,
we of
that's
course
the easy
looking
bit.
forward
Coming on here
to
and
it.
talking about it is the difficult bit.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, but we will come up with some text, some questions in between to keep you going. I hope so. Also, Robert is here. He's helping out. He's working for the Dutch importer of your brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's take it away. Let's go to the whiskies, and I hope everybody has the set. Good evening, Robert.
Hi, good evening.
Okay, I'm saying goodbye and have a good time, you guys.
Hello. Yeah. Well, welcome to the Zoom daftmill tasting. I'm Francis Cuthbert. I'm the distiller and farmer at Daftmill. I grow the barley and make the whiskey, but I'm not a slick brand ambassador, so this is a little bit out of my comfort zone. Although we've done a few of these now, so ask lots of questions and we'll try and have it more as a chat rather than a lecture from me, because that won't be very interesting. The first dram tonight, I think, is let's chat. What's going? Oh, sorry. The first dram tonight is Winter 2010. I don't actually have that bottle, so I'm having the American cask strength version of it with you. This was from quite a wee while ago. We do two main releases per year, a winter release and a summer release. The idea of doing that is the distillery has to fit round the farming calendar. So we start distilling end of May, June, and distill June, July, sometimes the beginning of August, and then we shut down for harvest time in August. Harvest usually August, September, then with a bit of tidying up after harvest in October, get cattle inside into the sheds for the winter time, settle down into our winter routine, and then I can start distilling again, sort of mid-November usually, November, December, January, a little bit of February, and we shut down for the spring work. Planting barley, calving cows, getting cattle out to the grass, planting potatoes, those sorts of things. And that takes us up till the end of May. So the distilling is done in distinct summer and winter periods, and the releases are from the whisky that was distilled within those summer and winter periods. This is a winter one. I'm right. Winter 2010, yeah, winter. So the winter distillate tends to be a little bit fatter, a little bit oilier, coats the palate a little bit better, but isn't quite as fruity or as fresh as the summer distillate, and tends to have a bit more of what I might describe as sort of farmyardy notes coming in there. You get all the flavours from a good bourbon barrel, the toffee, butterscotch, vanilla going on in there. This bottling was 100% bourbon barrels, first fill bourbon barrels. Most of the casks we fill are bourbon barrels. We fill a few sherry casks, but that's about it. We don't do anything, any tequila casks, wine casks, that sort of stuff. In the main, it's bourbon barrels and a few Oloroso or PX butts and hoggies as well. What's anyone's comments on this dram? Is it thumbs up, thumbs down? How do we do? The differences between the summer and winter releases is probably down to the ambient temperature during the fermentations. When it's a bit warmer, the fermentations go off a bit faster. A few more esters and that get produced. A lot of distillers will tell you they make the best whiskey in the winter time because the water that they're cooling the stills with is really cold at that time, and you capture more of the lighter, fruitier notes with the colder water cooling them very quickly. But we use water from an artesian well. It comes out of the ground at 10 degrees both summer and winter, so there's not much variation in the temperature of the cooling water, but the ambient temperature in the mash house where we mash and ferment is very different from the summer to the winter. So that's what I put it, the difference is. Maybe there's not a difference. Well, you can decide as we go along tonight. The summer and winter releases are bottled at 46%. Sometimes a little spot of water just helps open them up a little bit. It varies from release to release. Some I find much better with a little bit of water. Sometimes water doesn't change it very much. Somebody's asking about my brother. Does he help with the distilling? Afraid not. It's all down to me. More my business partner than hands-on working with me day to day. Do we experiment with different barley and yeast? We we grow mainly the varieties of barley that the commercial maltsters want to buy, because we grow about 1,000 tons of barley, but we only use 100 tons in the need to be able to sell what we are producing onto our other maltsters and distillers. So we grow the main commercial varieties, which at the moment is Laureate Firefox. We also have a wee bit of an old variety, Golden Promise, that we grow as well. And if I can share on the screen, I don't know, did that work? Do you see 2 buckets on your screen? There we go. This is a couple of yeast experiments. We were using spent brewer's yeast for this. The dark bucket is a stout, and the front one was a hoppy Belgian ale. I just had to use whichever yeasts they happened to be brewing at the time. And let's see if I can change that. Back. And that is the result. The yeast goes off like a bomb, the brewer's yeast compared to the distiller's yeast, and comes spewing out the top of the washback. So it gives us a lot of extra cleaning to do, as it's all dripping down the side of the washback and all over the floor. So yeah, we have done a little bit experimenting with yeasts and stuff, but in the main, we are very conservative and don't do anything too radical. Is someone keeping tabs on time and stuff to say when it's time to move on to the next dram, or is it just down to ourselves? Because from here I can't see whether anyone's glasses have still got some in, or whether everyone's finished, or how it's going. Why are we experimenting with yeast? We were part of a group that was trying to recreate whiskies from the 1920s, and so we were using techniques from then, such as using brewer's yeast rather than distiller's yeast, and different gravities of the wort and things like that. It's impossible to know whether we've created a spirit, because new make spirit from that time doesn't really exist anymore. So, but it was a fun wee experiment to do. Do I have a distinct, a certain summer or winter vintage that I find stands out? Probably the one we're trying to sell at the moment is the one that stands out most, and when it's gone, it's the next one. I have favourites from time to time. Some I like better than others. But you tend, once you've bottled it and it's gone, you tend to move on, and you're thinking about the next bottling or the current bottling that you're doing. So yeah, the one that's out at the moment is maybe winter 2012, but in a week or two's time, I'll be starting to draw samples for summer 2013. So I'll be then starting to think about that rather than the last one. Is there a standard daftmill? So far, no. We just pick the casks we like and bottle them. And by doing vintages, and the summer and winter things. It gives me a set number of casks to pick from, and it doesn't matter if there's a bit of variation between one bottling and another. In fact, it's probably better if they're not all the same, as it keeps it kind of interesting. So yeah. Are we wanting to move on to the next dram yet? How are we doing? For the trying to recreate the old style whiskey, we used and malted it ourselves on the floor, which again was quite interesting to do. Fairly knocks the puff out of you, though, I must say, when you're turning 3 tons of malt on your own, 10 tons of malt, sorry, on your own 3 times a day. There we go. Right. That's the okie dokes. Next dram. This is one of our summer bottles. 11. If I is summer. Got the right bottling from the.
So could you maybe tell us how everything started 21 years ago, and why you wanted to distill in your backyard, and why you made a distillery in your backyard?
Yeah, well, the the distillery is here because this is where we farm, where we this is where we farm, where we live, where we own land. So this is where the distillery is. The reason we started, I have been asked this many times, and usually I have a different answer each time. Sometimes I say it was a deep-seated and long-held desire to pay an awful lot more tax. Sometimes I say it was a mental illness. But it kind of comes down to growing malting barley. The price of malting barley at the time was less than the cost to produce it, and we wanted to add value to our crops. We had a love of whisky and had always been interested in whisky, so it seemed a logical kind of thing to do, to convert our old mill buildings to a distillery and start processing some of our barley through into whisky ourselves.
Yeah, all right. And do you only make the barley for yourselves? Was another question I saw.
No, we grow a lot of barley. Let's say in a good year we can harvest 1,000 tons of barley, and we use about 100 tons in the distillery. So 90% of what we grow we sell on to other distillers. Most of it used to go to Macallan and the Edrington group, but the last couple of years we've been doing some low carbon barley for Chivas Regal, and it mostly goes into Milton Duff. But demand for whisky is falling. The amount of money that they have available for doing these things is less. So I don't know if they're going to carry on with a low carbon barley because it's more expensive to produce. So, so we are in a, you know, as demand for whisky has decreased, the big companies are cutting production, which is greatly reducing the amount of malting barley that's needed. So it's interesting times again.
Yeah, I see a nice question here also. You wanted to make whiskey in the style of St. Magdalene. Those who tried maybe know how that would taste. Are you happy so far with the results achieving that?
Yeah, we weren't trying to copy anyone. St. Magdalene and Rosebank were sort of two good lowland distilleries that had closed, and we wanted to make something sort of in the style of we thought a good lowland distillery should be. Something light, fruity, slightly floral, not, you know, a big bold Islay or Speyside sort of whiskey. Something much more subtle and delicate than that. And yeah, I think it's, you know, the typical lowland whiskey now. Yeah, quite pleased with how it's come out. A lot of luck involved in that rather than skill, I think. But however it would come out, that's what our whiskey would be. But yeah, we kind of designed it with the idea of making a lighter style of whiskey in mind.
Yeah, nice. I think we all like the whiskey very well. I think one last question before we go to the next whiskey is, why is there a turtle on top of the bottles?
It's not a turtle, it's a tortoise.
Ah, all right.
It's usually only Americans that make that mistake, but yeah, we moved from polylaminate capsules, which are a sort of aluminium plastic sandwich, to pure tin capsules. And when we did that, the company said, your logo embossed on the top, but we didn't really have a logo, so the family has always kept tortoises, and we're quite fond of our tortoises, so we stuck a tortoise on the top. So to some people it means matured slowly. To others it means there's no hairs in the bottle. But yeah, it can mean anything you want it to. Yep. So this one is distilled in our summer season. Don't know if it was. It's from the variety of barley called Publican. We only grew that variety for 2 years. It was going to be a replacement for Optic, but it never really caught on with the bigger distillers, so it was a variety that came and went very quickly. I really liked it. It was good to grow, and I think the spirit it produced was really nice. So it was kind of sad that it never really took off. But there was 27 first fill barrels from Claremont Springs. Claremont Springs is one of Jim Bean's distillery, so it's a pretty big place. So there's lots of casks available from it. So we're able to pick better ones out when we go to the cooperage. Again, most of our casks are from bigger American distillers, just because there's more of them available. At one time, it was nearly all Heaven Hill casks, but as time's worn on, we've filled Maker's Mark, Jim Beam, a few Jack Daniels. I don't like Jack Daniels casks. They tend to be a poorer quality. Buffalo Trace, Four Roses, most of them that you can think of will have filled at some point. If it's a mixture, I usually wouldn't say on the label, but the fact all these casks came from Claremont Springs, I just mention it for sort of slight interest and kind of transparency on the label.
Yeah, so you don't have a? Do you have the same people you work with to get your casks?
Yeah, we get everything through Speyside Cooperage, but it depends what they've got available when I'm needing casks. I tend to just buy 30 barrels at a time. I can go along with my little trailer on the back of the pickup, and they allow me to go through the containers and pick out the 30 that I want. So, you know, if all they're buying in is Beam casks, they're likely to come from some of Jim Beam's distilleries. What I don't like about Beam is that half the time their casks just say Jim Beam Brands Tank 206 on it, and so you have no idea whether it's a rye whiskey. Did I drop out there?
For a second, but it's okay now.
Yeah, the screen flashed a second. Sorry.
So, do you have a favorite type of bourbon cask to put your whiskey in?
Yeah, I like Heaven Hill. They use a good quality of cask, but often I'll look not at which American distillery rinsed the casks, but at which cooperage made the casks. If you look on the rivets of the cask, the coopers often mark them. So, like a cask with KY means it's come from Kentucky Cooperage, which is owned by Independent Stave. One with a stamp EBC is East Bernstein Cooperage, so that's a small family cooperage. So I like them better. They're more likely to use air-dried wood than some of the bigger cooperages. The McGuinness Wood Products is another small cooperage, as is Zach Cooperage. These tend to, be smaller family-run businesses who tend to put out smaller numbers of casks, which tend to be a wee bit better quality. Not always, but often.
So if you, it's probably choosing between your children, but if you could do anything with daftmill, do you rather put it in a bourbon cask or in a sherried one?
Well, as we fill 90% bourbon, it's probably bourbon. Bourbon suits the style of whiskey we're trying to make. It works well for us. Bourbon barrels are we very rarely get a bad bourbon barrel. They are uniformly pretty good. A few are exceptional. With sherry casks, there's much more variation. You can buy 5 or 10 sherry casks from the same place at the same time. 1 or 2 are exceptional, 1 or 2 are terrible, and the rest are somewhere in between. So the bourbon barrels are much more consistent.
Yeah, great. Just looking through the questions asked.
Yeah.
Someone asks, how do you select those casks from the lot that you can pick from?
The way we select the ones that go into the batches is quite simple. If I like them, if If I really like them, they go forward as a single cask. If they're okay to good, they go into the batches, and if I don't like them, they go back in the warehouse. So for further maturation.
Yeah. So one of the things, I think you already mentioned it a bit, you also grow potatoes, but besides potatoes and barley, is there anything else you grow?
Beef cattle is our other main enterprise. We a lot of cattle. So spent grains from the the distillery go out and go to the cattle. So, and then the waste that's left in the bottom of the stills, the pot ale in the wash still, and the spent lees in the spirit still, they get sprayed on the grass. A technique of taking the draft out to the cattle. That's a box we use for storing potatoes in. Holds 1 ton. We do a 1 ton mash, so we can fit a ton of spent grains into it, and we take it out and give it to the cattle.
I see a good question here. How full is the warehouse nowadays, or do you have new warehouse besides the old ones?
Yes, we have just built a new warehouse. We bought the steel from Higgs of Markinch, his old bottling hall warehouse. So we took that down and brought it home, and we've used half of it to put up a 1,000 square metre warehouse that we've got half dunnage and half racked. So yeah, we were getting very tight for space before we got that built. Moving on to the next one, are we? Yep. Winter 2012. This will be quite different from the first two in that it's sort of 50% sherry cask rather than 100% bourbon barrels. We made this bottling up with 7 first fill ex-bourbon barrels and 5 first fill sherry hogsheads. I can't remember if 1 or 2 of the hogsheads were PX and the rest were Oloroso. So this is the second time we've tried mixing bourbon and sherry together in one of the seasonal releases. The previous one was in 2009, and I didn't like that very much. It didn't work as well as I'd hoped. This one exceeded my expectations. This one came out pretty good, I think, anyway.
Yeah, I personally really love this one.
This one sold out pretty quick in the UK. Again, it was us. We only had the 5 sherry hoggies, and we were going to bottle them as pure sherry, but it only gave us about 2,000 bottles, which wasn't enough for the batch. And we tried it with 7 bourbon barrels, so about 50-50 liquid wise, and that worked quite well. And then we tried it with more bourbon barrels, but we just lost the sherry influence in it. So we stuck with about 50-50 ratio, and we got 3,000 odd bottles out of it for this batch. So it was a smaller batch, so it's sold out a bit quicker. And again, people often buy on colour because it's a darker bottle that went quicker. But I think for a variation, it's quite a good one.
So, see any plans to make bottlings with only dunnage casks on one side and only racked on the other?
All the all the bottlings so far are from our dunnage warehouses. We haven't bottled anything out of the racks yet.
Could you maybe explain the differences between what that will
dunnage
do?
and rack? Dunnage warehouse. Do we have a picture of a dunnage warehouse? Hold on a minute. I thought I did. Yeah. Oh, no. Sorry, that's my fault. I've switched myself off by mistake. Coming back on. Oh, sorry, yeah. Screen's not sharing. There it is. Yeah, so that's a dunnage warehouse. The casks in our dunnage warehouses are stacked up 3 high with a wooden batten between the rows of casks. That is warehouse number 2. Above that, above those steel beams, is another floor with another 3 high rows of casks on it. In the racking, the casks it's like the shelving they have in an Amazon warehouse. Our racks go up, I think, 5 high. And I don't know if it if it makes much difference whether the whether the casks are in dunnage. That's the top of a racked warehouse. You're let's say there's another 5 casks underneath that one that you see there. That was an old cattle shed that we converted to a warehouse. Oh, sorry, it did that.
Yeah, great. So some casks are being used more and more. Have you ever used a wine cask for daftmill, or will you ever in the future?
I can't say what we'll ever do in the future, but no, we haven't filled any wine casks or port casks that I can think of. A lot of the whiskies that were finished in wine casks previously, I wasn't particularly fond of, so I haven't done many of them. The ones that kind of work for me are usually the sweet white wines. They work a lot better than the the heavier red wines. But like the Springbank, has done loads in wine casks, and they're often pretty good. So, you know, it can be done, but no, we've not been overly experimental. When you only make 100 casks a year, if you fill 10 wine casks and they turn out to be pretty ropey, what do I do with them? That's 10% of a year's production that I can't use. So yeah, we've been pretty conservative with cask wise. We fill mainly bourbon barrels because they work, and a few sherry casks, which gives us a little bit of variation. We're maybe a little boring in that regard, but again, sourcing good wine casks and being able to get them year after year can sometimes be a little more difficult. But yeah.
Someone in the beginning asks, do you have a certain vintage summer or winter release that you really think that stands out?
Not really. At the moment, I'm really liking the winter 2012. It's the last one we've done. But shortly, I'll start thinking about summer 2013 and be putting little samples of different casks together to see how that batch works out. And if I do it well, then that one will be my favourite until I'm doing the next one, sort of thing. It's kind of, you know, it's only when I do a tasting like this that I actually go back and taste stuff that we bottled 2-3 years ago, rather than what I'm going to be bottling next year or later this year. What does anyone else think of do they prefer the sherry mix, or is the straight bourbon a more honest, more able to see the distillery character better? What's people thinking?
So let's add another question while we wait for people what they think for the whiskey. So I see someone saying no need to use wine casks. However, Sauterne could be okay.
Yeah, as I said, the sweet wine casks tend to work better for my palate than the red. The whiskey and the red wine seems to clash rather than, you know, interact and marry together. But yeah, some people do it very well. Others that I've tasted are not so good. So yeah. Somebody says, were we surprised by the amount of interest when we released? Very much so. I didn't think anyone had heard of us. So our initial bottlings were very small because, you know, I didn't think there was more than 1,000 people knew about us, let alone were willing to go out and buy a bottle. So yeah, it was a very nice surprise when things flew off the shelf, because I imagined having to go around and and hand sell the whiskey almost, rather than being able to sit back and just watch it go.
I see a lot of positive things about the third whiskey that we are drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. People are too polite to leave leave bad comments.
No, but like for me personally, I really like the last release. It's really, really good. Lovely.
It's nice to have something a little bit different without being without sort of it being artificially manufactured. Like, it's easy enough to buy some active casks and throw your 12-year-old whiskey into it for 6 months and get something very different. But I find it doesn't have the balance of something that's been fully matured in the cask for a good long period of time.
Maybe a question for when we're drinking number 5, but will there be another 15-year-old 5 strength?
Yeah, we just need to clear the shelves of the current one. I think there's still some of it kicking about, but yeah, it was never planned to be all the time a continuous thing, but it's definitely one we can go back to at any point that we want and do again. The current 15 is our third batch of it. There was some from 2006 casks, then a batch from 2007 casks, and the last batch from 2009 casks. So yeah, I preferred the 2006 or 2009 batches over the 2007 one. It didn't work as well as the other two, I thought.
From what I've tasted, I really love the 2012 ones.
Yeah. So the next big thing we're hoping to do early next year will be a 21-year-old. So I feel once I've released a 21, I've sort of come of age, if you like. We've done it then. It seems quite unbelievable to me that is about to release a 21-year-old.
That's that must be some of the first casks that you ever filled then.
Yeah. So there's casks from 2005 that will be 21 at the end of this year. Whether we bottle them or whether we wait till next year and then we can get some of the early 2006 casks as well. It'll give us more casks to pick from. So yeah. And after we've got a 21, then we can go back and probably do an 18-year-old. If I did an 18-year-old first, I wouldn't have enough stock left to do the 21. So we'll get the 21 out first and then maybe do an 18-year-old. Or maybe not. I don't know.
Someone asks if you ever considered triple distilling for an even more softer lowland character.
Yeah, I always wanted to do triple distilling. When we started first, I made a malt vodka for another company. I was kind of contracted to do that. It was a way of bringing in a little bit of money at the time, and we distilled it 5 times, which was very interesting. But yeah, the old adage is Scotch whisky doesn't need to do it 3 times because they get it right in the second time. So the problem for me is I either have to make a very weak wash, a very dilute beer, so that when you distill it 3 times, it doesn't. You have enough water in it to distill the alcohol off and leave enough water to cover the heating element in the bottom of the still. Or I would need to distill it twice, then add water to it and distill it again. Ours, we take a very high narrow cut, so it comes off at quite a high strength. You know, we collect new make spirit about 75.5%. So you couldn't distill that again. There's not enough water in the mix to be able to distill it off, take all the alcohol out, and still leave the heating element in the still covered.
Yeah. So talking more technical things, what's your how long is the fermentation time, and how long do you distill? How long is the copper?
We do a very long fermentation. We ferment for 100 to 120 hours. If I mash in on Monday morning, I'll distill the first half of it on Friday and the second half of the washback on Saturday. We produce about 5,500 litres per mash, and I can only distill 3,000 litres maximum at a time. So we split it in half and do it over 2 days. So that's why I say 100, 120 hours, because it's one half is a day later than the other half. Again, when we're distilling, we try and do it quite slowly. We want to give the spirit a lot of time in contact with the copper, so we get a nice clean spirit, so there's no sulfury elements or anything like that coming through. So it takes about an hour and a half for the wash still to heat up, and an hour for the spirit still. And then when the spirit still starts to boil, we turn the steam down to the lowest setting we can and just trickle it through for about 2.5 hours. And it goes from 7 to 8% when it's coming into the safe, down to 73%, where we cut off spirit and onto the faints, and then we can turn the steam up and boil it, the rest of it back to the faints tank, till it's coming through about 0.2, and then we shut the still off. And that gives us then about 260, 270 litres of new make spirit at 75.5% alcohol. Again, by giving it longer in the still, we get a much cleaner spirit than if we try to force it through. You can do 2 runs per day. If you get up early, distill through, clean down your stills, fill it up again, and do another run late afternoon. I don't like doing that, because even though it's myself doing it, if you're standing in the distillery at 10, 11 o'clock at night, you just want to get finished. And so there is a great temptation to just crank the heat up a little bit, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, just to push it on a little bit faster. I prefer to do 1 a day, set time, and to take the time, and that way you're not trying to rush things.
Yeah. So a different question that I also saw is, we know you use different types of barley, but what are the differences, and why do you use certain types of barley, and why do you maybe don't use certain types of barley?
The differences between modern varieties are very slight. The different plant breeders are all trying to achieve the same thing, and they're all using the same parent material to breed the varieties. So although we switch from Concerto to Laureate to Firefox, the differences are very slight, because all the varieties are half sisters of each other. They're all bred from the same parent material, or are very closely related. So there's not huge differences between each variety. If you go back a long way, though, then there is much bigger differences. So like when we've used Golden Promise, you get a much oilier sort of spirit than you would from some of the newer varieties. The reason we change is varieties they come out, they have great disease resistance. They're resistant to mildew, to rhynchosporium, to other fungal diseases and stuff. But as you grow them year over year, the mildew adapts and the resistance in the plant breaks down, and it starts to become what we call a dirty variety. It's no longer resistant to the diseases. So if you want to continue growing it, you need to use more sprays and fungicides to keep it clean. So when that's happening, usually breeders are continually breeding new varieties. They'll have a new variety coming along that promises more yield, better disease resistance, something better, and people kind of move on to the next thing. It's kind of like models of cars. There's always a new model coming along, and everyone progresses along. We're not all still driving about in the same old cars that we were in the 1950s. Some people do, but the majority of us move with the times, albeit rather slowly.
Yeah. So
answer the question.
Two questions to follow that up. You see a lot of. So first question is, how many acres do you have, and what do you grow this year on those on your farm?
Right, we've got just shy of 1,000 acres, 400 hectares. It's easier in acres. I still think in acres. We grow a fair bit of grass for our cattle. We're growing 380 acres of barley, spring malting barley. We've got 50, 60, nearly 70 acres of potatoes, 60 acres of broccoli, 50, 60 acres of carrots, and what we've got, 15, 16 acres of onions. So not all of that we grow, like the broccoli and stuff. We don't actually grow that ourselves. We've got a neighbouring farmer who's sort of specialises in growing broccoli. So we rent the field to him and he grows the crop on it. So we don't have a huge amount of input into that, because it's got to be hand picked. And he has the manpower to do that. We don't.
Yeah. So what another question is, what percentage of your time on the farm is spent on making daftmill compared to other farming activities?
We 40-50% of our time in the distillery, 50-60% of our time on the farm.
Okay.
Depends on the year. If we've got a late spring, takes longer. It's longer before we get the crops in the ground and stuff, so it's longer before we start distilling. If there's an early harvest, we can run a few more mashes before we need to shut down.
I think someone is a fan of cows because he asks, how many cows do you have?
At the moment, 146. That will probably double come October.
And the last question about barley that I saw is, you see a lot of different distilleries doing heritage barley things. Would you ever consider doing something like that?
We have done. Like I say, we grow Golden Promise. Most of it's for an English brewery called Timothy Taylor, but we hold a little bit back for our own use and run a little bit every year through the distillery. So that's. But what is heritage? There's a distillery was advertising heritage barley as Chariot. Now, I started using Chariot as a mainstream variety when we started in 2005. And now they're classing it as a heritage variety. So I don't know if there's a set definition of what heritage is.
Yeah, I think it's time to
Yeah.
go to the cask strength releases.
I'm not sure if I'll have tasted this since I was drawing the samples for these bottles.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe you could tell something about how you select single casks, maybe. So,
Yeah,
because we're drinking a single cask.
Like I say, it's the same as when we're picking the casks for the batches. We go through, well, if we're doing a summer release, we'd go through all the casks distilled in the summertime. We dip the cask, measure how much is in it, and draw out a sample and take the samples back to the office, and then over the evenings sit and go through them and write down a little note in my book whether I think it's good, it's bad, it's astringent, it's okay, it tastes of soap, or whatever strikes me about it. And the ones that sort of excel get put aside as potential single casks. So this one must have impressed me at some point. Also, for the single cask bottlings, you also need a reasonable fill level in the cask. Sometimes you get a great cask, but there's only half a cask of it, so you probably wouldn't bottle that as a single cask. You want one with a reasonable level in it.
Someone asked, do you pick the cask with your brother?
No, I just do it. I do it all myself.
How is your brother involved in the?
He's more my business partner than working with me day to day.
Does he like whiskey?
Yeah. He really likes whiskey. But I find the most effective committee is a committee of one. This is for cask strength, 57%. It's a bit lower than some of them. I think this would have come from the upper level of Warehouse 2. What's your name?
So since it's been a while that you tasted this one, what are your thoughts about the 2012 13-year-olds?
Yeah, I really like that. Yeah, it's not. You have to. On the nose, it's not. It's very soft on the nose, and sipping it, it's not not overly aggressive on at cask strength. Try a bit of water in it.
So I see a question of what type of barley is number 4 made of?
This was Concerto. Yeah, 2012 we were distilling with Concerto. This was grown down the South Fields. South Fields are 4 small fields that grow together at the bottom of the farm. It was harvested on the 2nd and 3rd of September in 2011 and was then dried and stored on the farm and malted in 2012. Usually we need to store the barley from harvest time in the autumn through to the spring of the year to allow the seeds to break dormancy. When you harvest them, the grain's dormant, so it doesn't grow, so it survives the winter. So you need to store it through to at least till after Christmas time, normally to the spring of the year, when then we can malt it.
So I know for 100% that we're gonna get this question now. So I'm just gonna ask, how many dogs do you have, and what are their names?
How many dogs? I don't have any dogs at the moment. I've got.
Was it?
This thing here is my daughter's dog. Yeah, suspicious character there. Eh? Right, out you go. Right, out. Yeah. I lost my old dog, and we weren't going to have any more. But so my daughter begged and says, "Well, if you want a dog, you look after it." So she does pretty much, but it likes to follow me about the farm and go around the cows and things like that.
Good. So, someone asked, "Do you know what bourbon barrel was used for number 4?"
No. If I had to guess, I would say it was a Jim Beam cask. Most of the ones we were filling around that time, I think, were Beam casks. That cask will now have been refilled and be back in the warehouse again. So I could probably find it, and on the back of the cask will still be the the stamp from the bourbon distillery that it came from.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, somebody commented, "With a drop of water, it's better." I agree with that. Water really improves that. It's, yeah, I'm loving the nose on this one. It's just so soft and delicate.
Yeah, it's really it's a nice whiskey. So
yeah.
Someone asks, it's a nice question to get your opinion of. What are the current trends in whiskey business you like seeing, and maybe are there some trends that you dislike?
What is the trends at the moment? I don't know. Let's say taking independent bottlers to I've struggled for a while to get something different from distillers. A lot of the distillers have been holding on to stuff, so independent bottlers have struggled to get. So to make a point of difference, a lot of them are just dumping everything into sherry casks, and what I would call it, rinsing it in sherry. So you get a nice Dalyun or something like that from a bourbon barrel that they dump in a sherry cask for 6 months. It gives it a lovely colour. It looks good. It's got a great nose and whatnot. But I like pale whiskies. I think there's some wonderful whiskies without a lot of colour in them. I don't think you need to do that. Obviously, it sells, which is why they stick them in a Pablo Cortado cask or whatever else they do. But that's a trend that hopefully, as the industry is selling less whiskey, there will be more casks available to independent bottlers, so they're able to bottle things, just good casks that they come across.
A good question that I've missed apparently is number 4, a summer or a winter batch. You talked about the barley when you harvested it.
This would definitely be distilled in the winter. This is cask number 2, so this would be filled January, I'm assuming. What does it? No, sorry. It was distilled in our summer season, being filled on the 4th of July. So, Traitor's Day. It was then matured in upper level of the warehouse and bottled in February 2026 for the Netherlands. Yeah, so we obviously didn't fill anything in January, February that year. I can't remember what we were doing in January, February 2012, but it wasn't making whiskey anyway, that's for sure. If the first fillings were done in July.
So, question we see also is I've seen, I think, 2 times now. Any plans for a core range release?
Well, the 15 is kind of that. The 21 maybe kind of that. But yes, I am thinking about moving away from the seasonal releases to doing a standard 10-year-old. But the problem would be maintaining a consistency for that. At the moment with the vintages, if it's not consistent, it doesn't matter. But if people are buying a standard 10, I think they would maybe want consistency. So my thought was to do a kind of Solera system, whereby we fill a tank up with double the amount of whiskey we need to bottle. We bottle what we need, and then the rest of it goes back into casks. And the next time we do a bottling, those go back into the tank with some new casks again, so that 50% of the liquid is coming from the previous batch, so that we maintain more consistency than we would do just picking the casks that I like. I'm not a skilled blender. Like I say, what works for me is to just go through the casks and see which ones stand out to me and bottle them. It's quite straightforward. I'm not trying to achieve any specific flavour profile or anything like that. So trying to maintain a consistent thing might be a wee bit harder. But then somebody pointed out to me that Springbank's not consistent, and they do all right. So someone beat me to that there. So sorry.
Yeah, I see a question from CJ also. Do you refill all your casks which you used, or do you abandon them?
No, I fill the better casks. If there's casks of a very low fill level that we put into one of the batches, I wouldn't refill that. Again, if there was a cask that the whiskey was a bit odd or not to my liking, that somehow got bottled, I wouldn't fill that one. But certainly the single casks are all good and have a high fill level, so would all definitely be refilled. Let's say something that's maybe leaked a wee bit in the warehouse and I haven't been able to find, I wouldn't fill that one again. But we'll fill most of the casks that we empty.
Yeah, some things that are coming is indeed the comment about Springbank. Look what Springbank's doing. Says consistency is not necessary. True that. Completely agree. Who cares about consistency? And consistency is overrated. So
yeah, I don't know. It's maybe just me thinking that. But like I say, with the seasonal batches, variations expected. With a standard bottling, maybe more consistency is looked for. I don't know. Again, like I say, you can do batch 1, batch 2, or a bottling code or something like that on it. But the idea of going for a 10-year-old, it's a little bit younger. If it's a consistent thing, the front and back labels would always be the same for each batch, so I could order them in bulk, so I get the price of them down, and we can offer it at a lower price, which everyone tells me is what is needed. So. Yeah, somebody mentions colouring. None of our whiskies are coloured or chill filtered. The colour of them is just the colour of the whiskey that comes out of the cask. Some are quite dark, some are quite light. It's just the way it goes. Again, I don't see the need to add colouring to anything.
Yeah. So I think I saw this question before, 2 of those. So I'll ask them both. What do you find to be the hardest part of making whiskey, especially since you're doing it alone?
The hardest part, I don't know, the maintaining consistency between you're doing a batch process, but you want each batch to be the same as the one before. Over a long period of time, that you try to do your best each time, the best you can. But I don't know. I must like it because I keep doing it. Hard. It depends what you mean by the hardest. The most difficult thing to do, or the most physical thing to do, or the worst thing about distilling is cleaning. I spend more time cleaning than anything else. Everything needs continually scrubbed and cleaned and whatnot. We don't have any mechanical cleaning, so it's all climbing inside tanks and the mash tun with a hose and whatnot, and manual cleaning. The most physical thing is probably moving casks, racking casks up, trying to make sure the casks are all sitting bung up. That's probably the physical part. Somebody says not draining your own warehouse. Yeah. That is a danger in the industry. The availability of whiskey. But yeah. Excuse me.
Has Coco had dinner?
No, I don't think so.
I'll go get her dinner. Okay. That's all I want to ask. Sorry.
Cheers. Yeah.
So a question I've seen 2 times now is about peatiness. About peat. Have you ever thought about adding maybe some peat to your whiskies?
We haven't really done any peated whiskey. The difficulty I had was getting my own malt peated. The maltings that we use for malting our barley they also supply a brewery, so they don't want any peat on site. Their sister maltings is a much bigger maltings, so I need 100 tons of barley to put through one batch at Alloa. If I was to get it through their sister distillery that does the peating, you need 500 tons of barley, and that would be way too much for my needs. So if I wanted peated malt, I would have to buy it in from outside rather than using our own malt. So we've not done that. With my own malted barley, the first time I did that, I tried to peat it, but it was a bit of a failure. I got peat from Orkney because most of the old books talk about peat from the island of Ede being used in this part of the world for peating malt. So I got some peats down and I burnt them as we were drying the grain. But I use an industrial grain dryer to dry the malt, and there's a massive fan, and the peat smoke just got blown through the malt very quickly, rather than in a typical pagoda where it would be going through very slowly, imparting a bit of flavour. So I joked that I made the lightest peated malt ever. I don't remember what the analysis was, 2 or 3 parts per million of peat on the phenols on the barley. So so yeah, the malt smelt very peaty, the whole worm smelt very peaty. The spirit had no peat in it whatsoever.
So it smells very nice.
Yeah.
But that's it.
So yeah, well, we haven't. So there's nothing peaty coming.
No. All right. Different question I've seen is: have you sold any casks to indie bottlers? All I know of is the James Eady project.
Yeah, that's the only one so far. Peter, Big Brothers and Rudd are keen to do an independent bottling of daftmill, and there may be 1 or 2 others coming in the pipeline. We may do 1 or 2 casks to independents going forward, but at the moment the James Eady thing's the only one.
All right.
Be sad to leave this one.
Leave something to develop, and we go to the next one.
Yeah.
So next up is the 15-year-old.
Yeah, this is from cask distilled in 2009, and it was bottled in 2024.
So question from The Obvious is: do you ever see daftmill expanding beyond yourself and your brother?
The easiest way to expand would just be to spend more hours in the distillery and less on the farm. But at the moment, I would like to do less hours rather than more. So I think the whisky industry is maybe heading for some hard times. So this is maybe not the time to be expanding, or maybe it is the time to be expanding. Maybe we should be doing the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing. But no, at the moment we release about half of whatever we've made in any given year. So we've got stock going forward, maturing. We don't have a huge glut of bottles lying about on the shelves. We don't need to employ a big sales team to sell it. So I think we've got it about right at the moment. I get a lot of I'm getting a lot of almonds and marzipan on the nose of this one, but I tend to get that when whiskey's been in the daftmill's been in glass for a while. The my bottle is quite near empty, so there's a fair bit of air gotten in.
Someone says this has got to be a winter, right? Winter distillation.
Yeah, let's see what. No, they were distilled in June, July, and August 2009, and bottled in December 2024.
It's a question about farming. Have you ever watched Clarkson's Farm, even though it's scripted, and recognized yourself in difficulties encountered being a farmer in the UK?
Yeah, I feel Caleb's frustration at times, right enough, when trying to deal with Jeremy. Yeah, it's Jeremy Clarkson is a he's a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a fool, bit of but I think he plays up to that for the cameras. But he's certainly done more for British farming than many others. The development boards and people that we pay to look out for our interests and whatnot. I think he's done a much better job by just bringing it down to the sort of human level.
Yeah, I think he shows a lot of things behind the scenes that people won't know or know about.
I had a bottle of his lager last night, the Hoxton lager, which it was nice, but I wouldn't say it was brilliant. I think I've had better beers from small breweries roundabout. I think some of the local brewers do a better job, but because he's famous and on the telly, it certainly sells. Should maybe get him to come to daftmill, eh?
Do you have some photos to show us, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know. I tried one earlier, but the sharing wouldn't work. Right, let's try again. Is it coming up? Yep. This is our water tower. This is a little connection between daftmill and the Netherlands. There is a artesian well at the bottom of the tower, and there used to be a wind pump. It's now an electric pump, and we pump water from the well up to the square. The square bit on the top of the tower is a water tank, and that then gives us a head of water to gravity feed the rest of the farm. And the local legend, or the local story, is that this was built by a Dutch engineer or a Dutch architect, who the family that owned Daftmill at the time were big investors in the railway. They had interest in Dundee, so were quite keen to see the railway bridge across the Tay. So they used this Dutch engineer to do the piers for the Tay rail bridge. I'm not sure whether it's the first rail bridge that fell down during the storm or the second one that they built, but the stone piers from the first one are still there. They didn't move. It was the steelwork that collapsed. So the family, being big investors, had the the Dutch engineer living with them at the farm, and when he was here, he remodeled the big house and built the water tower as what we would describe as a homer, you know, a job a tradesman takes on in his spare time. So this is our Dutch-inspired water tower, and the pagoda, if I can bring it up, the pagoda on the top of the is, we put that in there, but that's modelled on the shape of the roof of the water tower. The red pan tiles, oh, that, am I? The red pan tiles that roof the distillery also came from the Netherlands. This part of the east of Scotland is quite unique in having lots of buildings covered in red pan tiles. But I'm told the ships who were exporting, I think it would be salt or smoked fish from Scotland to the Netherlands, used pan tiles as ballast when returning back to Scotland. And this was then dumped on the quayside and was cheap to buy and used for a lot of the farm buildings. The higher status buildings, like so if the farmhouse is done in a slate roof, and the lower status buildings like the farm buildings and workers' cottages were done in pan tiles. But the Scottish captain's been very, very Scottish and not liking to spend too much money. Didn't buy the best of pan tiles, so they're all like second quality, and they are all different shapes and don't fit together perfectly. And so there's lots of sort of like little gaps in the roof for little birds and things that can get in and out, which is not ideal. But certainly gives good ventilation. So that's a little connection between daftmill and the Netherlands. How much of it's true? I don't know. I wasn't there when it was built. Boom.
Yeah, so a question we also have is, in the past, daftmill bottles have been hoarded a lot with few being opened. It seems to have been getting better lately. How do you feel about your bottles being hoarded instead of enjoyed?
Whiskey's made to be drunk. It doesn't get any better once it's in a bottle. So what's the point in keeping it? I can understand people who want to keep it for a special occasion. Everyone likes a nice bottle to bring out for a wedding or a family get together or something like that. But yeah, I'm grateful to anyone that buys a bottle. You know, whether it's a drinker or a collector or whoever it is, I'm grateful that they've parted with their hard-earned money for one of my bottles. So I can't knock people too much, but I can't understand the pleasure anyone gets of sitting in their attic looking at unopened bottles. That doesn't do anything for me. I'd much rather have half the amount of bottles or even just one bottle and have it open and been able to enjoy the contents rather than just having pristine labels and nice rows. So yeah, the fact more people are opening it is a great thing, and for us, it needs to be opened and drunk. Otherwise, all these hoarded bottles are going to come back on the market at some point. The guy's going to die, and his widow's going to sell them again or something. So unless it gets drunk, you're just creating a sort of pyramid scheme thing. There's a we got there's a
I think
a
we're
different one.
onto the
Steam rising from the boiler. Yep, right on it. There we go. So we're ready to move on to the last dram now, are we?
I think I saw it popped up on the screen. Yeah, not done with the fifth yet. Been enjoying a lot.
I'm gonna have to open a bottle.
So I've heard. So I've heard the story that from every single cask you keep the first bottle.
Yes, first six.
The first six.
Yeah. So that I can do tastings like this and find most of the bottles that we may have bottled some time ago. So this was bottled in 2022.
Yeah. Yeah. So the sixth one is well, they're all, of course, all they're very interesting to taste, and it's nice to given the tasting by you. But this one is special for us in the Netherlands because we have a few bottles, so it's a UK exclusive. And because of this tasting, we have 9 bottles available of this in the Netherlands, which is very unique. It never ever happens. So we're very happy with such a unique thing. And like I said, we only have 9. So I have not tasted this, so I will be joining you in a dram with this one.
This is a first fill Oloroso, but tastes a little bit dry after the other ones. This was Optic barley, grown in the South Fields again, harvested in August 2006. My friend who used to work for BBR and has now started Kythe Distillery, Johnny McMillan, selected this cask for the UK. And it was distilled in their summer season and filled on the 8th of July 2009 and was matured on the ground floor of the Dunnage warehouse when it was bottled in 2022. And it's 60.2% alcohol. I'm finding that quite dry tonight. I don't remember it being quite so dry. Again, a little, probably because I've just opened the bottle, but a little bit closed. Yeah, I quite like the Oloroso casks, but they do dominate the distillery character a wee bit. There we go.
Yeah, so a very unique experience for everyone outside of the UK to get to taste this.
The sherry cask proven incredibly popular. The Royal Mile Whiskies in Edinburgh got a sherry butt last year, and they sold it out in less than 4 hours. So yeah, with a little bit of time in the glass, it's opening up a wee bit. Often they don't show their best after you've had several bourbon for some reason. Someone's commented dryness, not so much. Well, a wee bit water. I'm not finding it too astringent. Again, Johnny quite liked really tannic sherry casks, so which weren't really suiting my palate as much.
Someone says, I think this sherry cask will be good for a refill and then leave it for 15 years or so.
Yeah, I agree. If I could get good refill sherry casks that I knew had only been used once, that would be I think a great thing. Although we haven't done all the sherry butts we've bottled have all been refilled, but none are near ready to be bottled again yet.
So yeah, last whiskey. Is there anything you would like to show us, tell us about the distillery? Maybe there's some photos we haven't seen. Maybe there's
there's what do you want to see? I'll see if I've got a photograph of it. There's.
So if people want to visit daftmill,
Please don't. So that's a wee picture of our spirit safe, the distilling away kind of, I was going to say slowly, but that looks reasonably briskly. What else have we got?
someone asks if you have a photo of the stills and maybe the washbacks.
Still, there's, I don't know if that.
How many liters are the stills?
The wash still is 3,000 litres, and the spirit still is 2,000 litres. But we only fill 2,600 litres, and about 1,800 litres. Shiny picture of the Mandor. What else have we got?
Someone asks who made your stills?
Forsyths and Rothis. They were famous for a while there for having like a 5-year waiting list for their stills, but we ordered ours on the Friday afternoon, and they started work on them on the Monday morning. So when we were building the distillery, there wasn't much else going on in the distilling industry. There's a sample of the wort going into the mash tun. We try to produce as clear a wort as we can. The clearer the wort, the better the fermentation we get. So that's quite a good example there, probably why I took a picture of it. So nice and clear, you can see the hydrometer, and you could probably, if you zoomed in, actually read the gravity on it there.
So another question about the stills. Are there still so shiny as in the picture?
Yes, the Mandor gets lacquered. Yeah, sorry, the stills are lacquered. The Mandors and the brass bits get polished up. So yeah, it's not maybe 100% as shiny, but pretty shiny. There's that one going on there. There's brewing yeast going off from the washback. That's so that then all runs down the sides and drips off the light fittings, and everything is a lovely sticky mess after that. So when you come in the morning and see that, you know you've got a day's cleaning ahead of you.
That's why everything's still so shiny, right?
Yeah. Oh, it's a good one in the safe. There we go. Kind of shiny. Oh, there you go. Our spirit's so sweet. We get loads of butterflies coming into the still house. There's a smashing in.
So question that popped up about the foam. You don't use anti-foam?
I try not to. I try to keep my production as pure as possible. We sometimes use a bit of natural soap as a surfactant. Sometimes, like we say, we're doing with the brewer's yeast. After a couple of times like that, we relented and used a bit of anti-foam. Started off using a half rate and it still came over the top. Then I used a full rate and it still came over the top. And then I used a double rate. And plus we have switchers in the washback that help keep the foam down. So yeah. But normally with a brewer's yeast, we get away without using any anti-foam. The switchers are good enough. Another foamy one, not quite as bad that time. That probably had a little bit of anti-foam in there.
So a nice question. I've also seen, well, there are actually two combined together. Are you all self-taught, or did you have something, or someone to help you starting up?
Yeah, we employed a distillery engineer. A guy used to work for Willie Grants. He built Kinninvie for Grants and was working on his own doing bits and pieces. So we used him for like the sizing pumps, sizing pipe work, and that kind of thing, doing the technical drawings and stuff that we needed to go to the planning department. But the fact he was used to working for Willie Grants at Glenfiddich meant he tended to make everything twice as big as it needed to be. Most of the tanks have like a 50 or 80 mil outlet on them, and then the first thing we've had to do is put a reducer on that to reduce it down for the smaller pipe work.
See a lot of people saying, "What are their favorites?" in the comments.
Yeah, that's always interesting.
So, to my surprise, I liked the 46% bottles the best. Even more surprising, the bourbon sherry one. I do agree, bourbon shows the daftmill style the best, but this evening I do like number 3 the best. I see someone saying number 4 was the favorite, followed by the first, number 4 and 1 for me as well. I love them all, which is great. Number 4 was the best. Number 4, top.
Yeah. Number 4 was the single cask for the Netherlands.
Yeah,
is
correct.
That correct? Yeah, that was my favourite tonight as well. I think that one showed the best out of them. But yeah, the last one was maybe my most disappointing one. Usually a big sherried one at the end of the tasting goes down. Is often usually the most popular one, but yeah, not tonight.
See another one for number 4. See one for number 1.
Yeah. Everyone's different.
Do the cows get the pot ale? Oh, sorry, popped away. Do the cows get the pot ale and become very happy as well, or just the draft?
The cows just get the draft. The pot ale goes with all the washings and the spent lees to a tank, and then we spray it out on the grass as a fertilizer. So they do get it eventually, but the grass absorbs the nutrients from it, and then the cows eat the grass. So that's how we work that.
See someone saying, please do more of number 3. What a great mix.
Yeah, I only had the 5 sherry hoggies, so when they're gone, they're gone.
We have to wait for a couple of years.
So, yeah, there'll be probably 2014. There's more sherry hoggies. I think possibly 2013 as well. But again, it's getting them when you feel that they're just right. It's a little bit more difficult with the sherry casks. There seems to be more flexibility with the bourbon barrels. If you hit it just right, they're great. If they go too far over, they're woody and astringent. And, if they're not quite there yet, again, they're not so good. So.
Another one for number 4. I see someone saying number 5 was his favorite.
I've got that one.
Someone said, I think rum casks could be good for daftmill.
I've actually just filled a couple of rum casks. Yeah, I like the sweetness of a rum cask, so it'll be interesting. but again, filled in the last year or so. So we're talking 10, 12 years down the line.
So what besides like the rum cask, do you have anything else that you maybe experienced with, like a Sautern or something like that?
No, I haven't done any wine casks very much. I recently got some refill casks that had been used, sort of sherry casks that have been used for finishing someone else's whiskies. So I'm hoping that by someone doing a finish with these casks, that'll have taken some of the edge off them, and we'll be able to do a full maturation without it going over the top. Someone's asking, was it a Jamaican one? No, it was Guyanan rum. Again, fairly high estery. But
so I think the comments need to pop up because everyone is thanking you for this evening.
Thanks for having me on. It's been a nice night. It's quite a nice selection of whiskies that you picked as well. Really sort of showcased the distillery quite well, I think. Someone's asking, we only do full maturations. Yeah, there is one finish, if you like. We tried finishing a whiskey in a sherry cask, and it took on a great deal of colour very quickly, and I thought it was going to go too far over, so I took it back out the sherry cask and put it back into the bourbon barrel that it came from, and then it had another 4 or 5 years in the bourbon barrel to mature, and then it was bottled for the Whisky Exchange. So it's their 2007 bottling for the Whisky Exchange. So that's the only finish that we've done. But I described it as a whisky that took a holiday in a sherry cask before returning to its bourbon barrel with a nice suntan. Any last questions? Yeah.
A lot of thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for coming along. As I say, this is I'm usually much more comfortable with my overalls on, doing something with my hands rather than sitting talking about it.
I think looking from the comments, everyone had an amazing night and
It's good.
drank some amazing whiskeys.
Were you partaking, CJ?
Sorry?
Were you having a dram?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, I had them all, and 4 was my favorite, but I like them all. And I agree. The bourbon is just is the best for daftmill in my opinion. And I gave the suggestion for rum, so I'm really excited to have to taste the rum barrels you were talking about in the future. That suits the profile, I think.
Yeah.
Hey, Francis, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. This was really nice. And
if you can't help out an old friend.
Yeah. Oh, I hope you can do this again one time in the future. And to the audience, I want to say thank you for joining us, and also let us know what you thought about it, because we want to do this more in the future. And if you have any suggestions of other distillers or distilleries or whatever, bottlers or let us know, and we contact them, and we hope we can convince them that it's a good idea to do something like this. And we have a great example tonight about how nice it can be. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the evening, and let's see each other again soon.
Cheers.
Cheers and thanks.
Cheers.